terrifying, of course, but they are incredible to watch. And also INnoVation, like, let's consider yesterday, to be honest, I felt like he was a little, and this might be a very harsh word, but a little lazy against the foreigners, right? Like
specifically in a laser, yeah,
yes.
I agree with that. There was a lot of times on the Trident game specifically where INnoVation felt like he was like not lifting his orbital against big attacks. He was just sort of like, yeah, whatever, there's a run by, okay, 20 Banelings, I don't care, like hit my planetary, I still am gonna win. Which he did, to be fair, but you can't be lazy from the round of 12 onwards. You have to respect the player in ShoWTimE.
Yeah, and it was more like he was probably just hoping that a laser would tire himself out, which, yeah, again, to be fair, it did happen. Like, he just kind of like outlasted a laser's attempts at relentless aggression, but it was like, you know, we would expect a couple drops here and there to also offset his opponent, and if he's not actually doing that, he's not gaining back control against ShoWTimE's style that he showed against Hero Marine, then that's actually when we saw Hero Marine start to falter, you know? It's when he was finally pushing with those Liberators against ShoWTimE that we had well, the last game, which actually was Hero Marine favored, until Disruptors, right?
Yeah, Disruptors are one of those units that seems like the Terrans at the moment are having a little bit of a tough time dealing with. You know, there are some options in the Terran arsenal, but they haven't looked super convincing. Obviously, the Liberators is the big contender. You can't really rely on your bio to stim in there and pick them off one after another when there's 3, 4, 6 Disruptors underneath the Colossus Ball with Gateway units all over it. It is quite tough. We've seen the Twilight Council being dropped here for ShoWTimE, going down that Twilight Council path. Trap is kind of the main Protoss that did damage to INnoVation. Obviously, Trap's PvT is pretty incredible. He kind of likes to prefer Stargate openers, so a little bit different stylistically than ShoWTimE, of course.
Yeah, I mean, Trap's PvT really is
ridiculous.
He just has such good decision making, which is really hard to learn on the fly. Like, you just don't watch a game and are like, I'll just decide better. Like, maybe you can like, oh, also open up the Stargate. Like, that's something you can change, but decision making, like, good luck with that.
Well, INnoVation is respecting ShoWTimE a little bit here, getting that bunker at the front nice and quickly, making sure that if there are any early gateway units, he's unlikely to take any damage. Both builds from both players look relatively standard as INnoVation's tucked away that starport into the backside next to the factory. He's going to grab that tech labs. It could be we've seen some Banshees, we've seen early Ravens, but this is kind of, you know, either of those paths, and it is going to be the Banshee path here for INnoVation. Maru actually really found some damage in his TVPs in Group C using Banshees with Cloak.
Yeah, they're I mean, sometimes they do get shut down. Occasionally there is just like, oh, now you went Banshees, like, oh, that's really cool. And then other times, most often, I actually say that they do damage. They either do damage directly or indirectly. Again, pulling an army out of position can be the best thing about them as you attack on some of our shorter maps. Ephemeron actually not necessarily one of them, but we have seen a decent amount of early pushes on this map. The choke around the natural gets a little bit awkward, I think, with the tank Banshee pushes, right? And ShoWTimE has shown a bit of weakness to it prior as well.
And INnoVation has got the propensity actually to go for those early pushes that you mentioned. It is something that he likes to do when he just feels like, yeah, this series doesn't need to go longer than it has to. And I like the build from ShoWTimE, by the way. It's just 3 gates, robotics facility. He's got himself, you know, he's got an observer on the way and Blink. He's quite safe, dropping his first forge. This is looking very safe here for the German Protoss. But of course, we are keeping our eyes on INnoVation and what he's doing. He's moving across the map here with a bunch of unupgraded Marines kind of cleaving the path for that siege tank with 1 SCV behind it.
Yeah, ShoWTimE really wanted to keep eyes on whether that was real or not, basically, and it absolutely is real. Blink is now finished up here, but he's got to use it against his Banshee first and foremost, so he's getting pulled out of position, exactly what I was talking about. Either you're pulled out of position, or you just let the Banshee do a lot of damage in which he has no protection, not even a single shield battery.
Yeah, the Banshee really catching him here. That engagement here at the third base. Unfortunately, the Marines protecting the siege tank. ShoWTimE's army's kind of not doing anything right now. He's bouncing around between that attack at the third nexus and this Banshee in the main. And meanwhile, INnoVation is running circles around him.
Yeah, the lack of scouting on the starport, not anticipating a Banshee from INnoVation is really going to ruin ShoWTimE here. He's going to try and get a better angle. This looks like such a insignificant push, right? It's a handful of Marines and a single tank. But that DPS from the Marines, even without stim, can really slaughter Stalkers to try and pounce on this. The Immortal certainly is going to help out. The bunker, that's a little ambitious from INnoVation, I think.
The Immortal will get this one tank here down to the south, but the reinforcement tank for the north, and unfortunate, unlucky timing there for ShoWTimE. He's lost 16 probes to this Banshee. Well, the Banshee's only killed 15, and I say only 15, but the Banshee's in tandem, doing so much damage here to the German Protoss. ShoWTimE really struggling here at the start of game 1.
This was far too much damage to take. If he had known about the Banshees, he would have had a shield battery, and then maybe the 2 Banshees start doing damage, but that is way too much. He's got to hope that something happens in return, so chasing on this army makes the most sense, but he's not really prepared. It's not like he didn't care about those probes and he was going to all in anyways. Like, no, he just doesn't really have anything to attack with, nor does he have a great situation to macro in.
And ShoWTimE did kill a few units there on the retreat, which is something, but he really can't do any critical counter damage to the Terran. There's a bunker there, multiple tanks, INnoVation heading towards 1-1 upgrades, and ShoWTimE's still on a single forge. He can't really afford double forge. He needs to work on his economy right now, and INnoVation knows it. He swings on in saying, nah, you're not going to get that probe count back up to where you want it, not without a fight.
Yeah, the Stalkers do take out the Banshee. At least you don't have to worry about that anymore, but the overall economy is looking quite poor. He absolutely needs to go on Disruptors. I believe he was going to anyways. We did see some pretty great usage of Disruptors on this map, specifically around what could eventually be a 4th base, but certainly when you're behind, you need to depend on 1 or 2 really lucky breaks.
It is definitely, any splash damage unit in StarCraft 2, no matter what race you play, is your comeback potential. And I do like the armor here. That does help out your charge lots and whatnot, whatever you want to go for the front line against the Terran, which you do absolutely need. But you got to be careful when you start to use disruptors as well. Multiple hotkeys and micro being extremely important. Otherwise, you disrupt as much of your own stuff as you do your opponents. Raven with a ton of energy heading towards that natural. Raven harassment's really been shown a lot here in this tournament.
I wonder if he tries to go for any because Colossus are so much more stable in these early games. Maybe you try and go for 1 or 2 and then disruptors might be safer in different ways, but I think you gotta take a bit of a risk. The Raven, if it went down, would actually be quite helpful. This definitely has been used for a lot more harassment in this tournament than I expected, and not necessarily on the front lines, but it is nice to just get rid of that. He does not. He is gonna go for Colossus first. Try and chrono that out for the attack.
The Colossus won't have extended thermal lance or attack upgrades, so it's not as scary as it normally would be to INnoVation. ShoWTimE's going towards double robo here. If he gets room to breathe and he gets to make enough Colossus, I start to feel pretty confident that he can hold, but this push from INnoVation looks extremely scary. Stim's done. 1-1 about to finish here, and we even have tanks to worry about with medevac support.
If ShoWTimE had the Colossus right now with those force fields, maybe he's damaging the Marines, but it's not here. A Disruptor is also on the way from the second robo that he just completed. That Nexus is already low, by the way, too, so INnoVation might just snipe it and say that's good enough. ShoWTimE is desperate to protect it, desperate to buy time for his robo units.
Disruptor is nearly done here. Colossus number 1 also about to pop up. The third Nexus, though, its time is about to be ended. He has just started stepping around that Nexus, doing more and more DPS. The static defense is going down, picking off that Disruptor immediately. Colossus shows up, but the tanks are a massive problem for everything from ShoWTimE.
Yeah, and in fact, the Colossus kind of wasting shots on single units there. It goes down very easily. INnoVation going to at Leipzig. It seemed like ShoWTimE might be having his year, and then that's the year that Cyril, of course, won Leipzig, and then ever the WCS tournament, and ShoWTimE quickly just kind of fell off as that non-Korean hope. But to have him in the round of 12 is a, fantastic thing to see. It is still a little surprising, whereas Cyril, you expect it, and you expect him to continue on past anyone he happens to meet.
Yeah, it really will be an exciting round of 8 match coming up next. So you got to get the round of 12 over and done with. It's going to be 8 best of 5s today, guys. So get your snacks ready, get your drinks, get comfortable, put on your favorite slippers, pajama pants.
There are a couple of PvPs though, so
So if you need to walk your dog, just kidding. Make sure if you're walking your dog, bring a Bluetooth headset, listen to it the whole time, plug in your AirPods, whatever they're called. So I am a boomer that uses an Android.
Of course you are.
Of course I am.
Yeah, I use one too. It's all good. It's all good.
Boomers unite.
Oh, okay, I guess, yeah. 7-year difference, but yeah, both boomers. The build opening here from INnoVation, he got a lot of success with Banshees, but I would say that you almost never, in professional games, you almost never get that much success. In this game, you certainly would not. The Stargate, not only a decent option for dealing with them, but also a very good option for getting thorough scouting.
Yeah, Trap found a ton of damage using this exact build against INnoVation.
Exact.
Almost exact.
The proxy, I believe, right?
That's true. It was on the top side of the map at about 12 o'clock.
Which does add a little bit. It's just a little bit faster, so you can actually get some extra SCVs to make it more worthwhile, but the Oracle no longer the big threat it was perhaps 2 years ago at this point. It's been a while, now 3 shots SCVs. But it is important for that scouting, so I'm glad to see it. He also might change completely from that Twilight Council into a robo-based play, where I believe Trap actually just kind of merged, developed into Twilight Council. But INnoVation, he is going for some Hellions here. Did he only go for 2? That can still deal damage, right? But you kind of almost consider this a little bit more like scouting.
It is just 2. Not really expecting this to do much damage as INnoVation goes to Cloak Banshees again. Happy with how it worked in game 1, and he's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Stargate is quite good against this, though, as long as your Oracle and Phoenix are there when it hits.
Good reaction from ShoWTimE. It is just the 2, so, I mean, if it was 4, I think you know, the Henlings dive past, and suddenly ShoWTimE loses a couple of probes. But the Oracle also would have been able to help out, which INnoVation narrowly avoids seeing with the Xel'Naga. He is going to get scouted. The Banshee's going to get scouted, and it's an option of, you know, where does the Banshee do damage even though it's scouted? Because the Stargate's supposed to be this great option, but then occasionally we do see the Revelation only tag 1 and there's 2, or the Phoenix isn't out next as he's going for a second Oracle. Now he sees what's going on here. Actually just cast Revelation, not even going to try going for those SCVs.
I mean, scouting definitely was a problem for him last game, and this time he has all the information he needs. He sees the Banshee, he tags production, he sees what's coming out of that production, sees the Hellions here as well. Looks like he's going to lose a probe, and then, you know, that's damage, but it doesn't seem like these Hellions are going to be able to do too much. ShoWTimE actually isn't even walling off his natural, by the way, with gateways. He's putting them in the main.
INnoVation went for a Viking. Does he have 2 Banshees? He's going to let Cloak finish, apparently.
He just had the 1 Banshee.
Yeah, like usually, if you get Cloak, you usually get 2 Banshees, but then developing his style as he sees the Stargate opener from ShoWTimE, I'm wondering if there's any potential for a push, because he also saw the intent to take a 3rd base fairly quickly. You know, there's not going to be a ton of units to prepare here, and ShoWTimE actually very seriously taking on this Banshee, which, you see, now it's like, oh man, now it's like he's over-defending, you know? He's got the Stargate stuff coming out here as well as shield batters in every base when it is only 1 Banshee.
Yeah, you don't want to put too many eggs into the Phoenix basket when your Terran opponent's going to be showing up with Stim and a bunch of bio units eventually. The extra 2 barracks is going down here, along with a 3rd base for INnoVation. His main almost looks exactly like it did on this map against Trav. He just has a certain way that he wants to lay it out, with the 3rd being tucked all the way to the right-hand side. Makes sense, because it's safer there from the Stargate units.
Yeah.
And the Viking and also Cyclone, of course, to shut down harassment potential.
That's a lot of Adepts coming out, actually. I mean, I don't think he's going to be going into like Resident Enclaves, but if this was a push from INnoVation with a small number of units, you can get a surprise number of Adepts. They work well against any tank pushes, as they can shade on top. But as far as offensively, can he actually utilize this? He is going to be going into Colossus Phoenix, it looks like, which is a style that has emerged again in, I don't know how long, but it's been back for a while. And that will utilize those Phoenix that seemed... They could have been overboard against the Banshees, but I think this actually is just the style he wanted to go for. And there is that Robotics Bay. The Adept's not going to be allowed in, but that shade, you know, running out anyways, would have been questionable, I think, to go in. But
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Pretty sure every Adept would have died. Yes, they would have gone down swinging and taken some units with them, but that's a costly investment for not winning the game. Robotics Bay does open up a lot of potential here for ShoWTimE. He still has those Oracles sharking around the map as well, so the Viking is a good call from INnoVation. This Banshee that he invested quite a bit into, actually, kind of useless until he pushes across the map.
Yeah, I mean, really just like scouting and maybe a couple of probes, right? But no, that didn't do too much this game. ShoWTimE, I think, breathing a bit of a sigh of relief that the early game just didn't go, you know, it wasn't the worst it could possibly be. I do wonder what his thoughts are on having this many Adepts not really helping. Stasis Trap also not going to work out. Cyclone not going to grab that Oracle, though, so more Stasis Traps could affect pushes.
Immediate Disruptor here from ShoWTimE. Not going to waste any time on making any laser giraffes. Straight into the balls. And that is one of those units that can make or break a defense. It's a unit that will one-shot pretty much everything INnoVation has in his army except for tanks. But if you whiff, then it's all for nothing.
Yeah. I mean, the point is that those Phoenix are going to cover any, like, drop play, Banshee play. I mean, heck, they could even stop the Raven from harassing, like, last game, right? Or snipe it on its way over, which would be fantastic for them. But he doesn't need to worry about getting into Blink Stalkers. He's got scouting, he's got a little bit of pressure, just a tiny little bit, and he has the option against drops. So you just go into Robo units that work out very well against ground armies, but the interference matrix can make a difference. INnoVation's
done a great job, by the way, with this map, getting around the outside of ShoWTimE's awareness. So ShoWTimE's got a couple armies, he's got a watchtower as well. He doesn't have that offensive watchtower as INnoVation's popped that one. Whereas ShoWTimE realizing that he's under attack, so he pulls everything back to the third base to culminate here at the natural for a fight. The Disruptor is a problem for INnoVation, but he does have energy on the Raven to be able to interference matrix it if he gets close enough. Picking off one Phoenix, nice start here for the Terran.
It is a very nice start, but two Colossus, I think one just popped out there, and Charge finishing INnoVation. I mean, Eternal Empire, talked about it maybe in favor of INnoVation's macro style, but absolutely for ShoWTimE's macro style, right? The wall. He's got these chokes, he's got this high ground that's going to work out very well for 3 bases, even 4 bases, and it is going to be a question of who can actually find an opportunity to attack into someone else's base.
ShoWTimE's actually stopped probing for a bit here as well. He's on 66, haven't seen any probes from him for a while. So he's been putting a lot of his money into units, feeling like he's under pressure here from the Terran. And certainly the floodgates could open up at any point for an attack. And he's just continuing to make more and more units. So INnoVation gets towards a Ghost Academy here. Can start EMPing everything. And he also is ahead on upgrades, as ShoWTimE only had the single forge for a bit.
The Adepts might actually find some usefulness as far as run-bys go. They do take out a Cyclone, take out the Zelnaga. INnoVation, though, full macro mode, 4th base on location. I think he can tell that ShoWTimE is being quite defensive. I mean, his composition is actually just not very mobile, except for those Adepts, which didn't go too far forward. But that Disruptor count, once it gets to 3 or 4, the Raven cannot take out every single one. And there's a big possibility at least one of them gets a good shot.
Stasis Sword catching a few of those units at the front there. 1 Marine and 2 Widowmine's going to trigger it off. He has actually got a revelation on a few of those units as well. ShoWTimE's been pretty much just making splash damage units from robotics facilities for what feels like a couple minutes here. I like the Dark Shrine as well, not only for Archons, but the Cloak Boys can always find damage.
It actually seems like it's pushing more and more to, if you go Disruptors, you gotta get a Dark Shrine. It's about distracting your opponent, especially at such a skill level as these Korean Terrans show when it comes to splitting. You gotta get the distraction in there. You gotta make the game a little more hectic to actually get the, not just the Disruptors to get a hit, but also to stop them from transferring to Liberators quickly and then just pushing you, right? Because that's when things get really scary.
So both players heading towards their 4th. Cutting Workers on 69. Nice.
It's a double nice right there. Nice, nice.
That's right, both players. And, I mean, there is a bit of a lull in the action here, just kind of posturing as both players. ShoWTimE moving down the south side of the map with INnoVation, still got his eyes on that natural by the looks of things. He hasn't tried any drops yet, no harassment. Liberators, obviously the Banshee got made earlier, but he looks like he's just keeping it with his army.
This is what you want to see from 2 macro-based players. This is actually why I like both of them a lot. INnoVation being my favorite Terran for a while, and ShoWTimE being certainly my favorite foreign Protoss, but even sometimes Protoss. Like, this is the style that I want to play, and it's a perfect macro. But it really is a bit of a lull. Like, they're both getting maxed out here. INnoVation, he is trying to find opportunity, but ShoWTimE's already split his army rather well, I believe. INnoVation not going to get any surprises here.
Yeah, he's trying to split his attention. Gets the tag there on that army as well, so ShoWTimE's going to be watching that on the minimap. Shark around. INnoVation is going for the Fusion Core here, and I feel like that's for Liberator range. So he has a reacted starport, so that makes a lot of sense.
He already has +2 on the way as well.
Shadow Stride is on the way here, CG, and that one could be very annoying. It's absolutely found itself as one of the more, you know, quote-unquote useless upgrades versus other things that the Protoss can do. Definitely not useless anymore. A lot of people have found a lot of success with it. As first Disruptor here to try to push back the Terran. Good control from INnoVation, and a great anti-armor missile. He is just cutting through this army like a hot knife through butter.
ShoWTimE was pushing the other army far, far away, but too far away to actually support the left side army, which was not enough without the Disruptor shots. The recall is good, and I believe he's still left enough to handle the right side, but INnoVation would disagree. And no, Disruptor ball's going out, not gonna find anything.
That's a lot of bio.
It's still 2 more shots, I believe. He's gonna get one on the top side, a better one on the bottom side, and this should be enough.
Yeah, he's just going to thin it out enough, and ShoWTimE does hold on both sides. Takes a bit of a blow. You know, he lost a few units there, but he still has enough in the bank to continue to remake units. And actually, speaking of banks, ShoWTimE still not quite 200 supply and just had a bit over 1,000 minerals and just spent that on another round of units. So he is recovering here, getting towards 3-2 upgrades as the Terran halfway through 3-3, slightly further along on an attack.
I am worried for INnoVation's transfer over to Liberators. The fact that he already has +2 finishing for that, which will decrease the kill shot on those Stalkers, is really scary alongside Liberator range. And he has taken control of the map, even though not much has gone on. I think this has got to be the time that ShoWTimE needs to be more adventurous, basically. Go out on the map, start to distract INnoVation, start to catch his Liberator transition before it gets to counts of 5, 6, 7. INnoVation even starting +3 attacks so quickly. And if ShoWTimE lets that happen and also just continues to stay back, he will be pinned into his bases without an option against Liberators.
Yeah, it really, if there's so many Liberators, there really are so few responses to the Protoss to be able to deal with them other than Stargate units again. And force fielding to INnoVation and keeping him at bay. Some charge lots thinking about that planetary. One of them takes the plunge. He's like, come on guys, get in here, the water's warm. Rest of them get on the top of that planetary. Not too many SCVs to repair it. So he's putting in a lot of damage. Lots of charge lots here from ShoWTimE. Eats a couple EMPs. Splash damage from the backline though. He's going to push INnoVation back.
Yeah, there's so many Marauders, but they do have a tough time cutting through Zealots. So that is going to be a good enough army, even as he kites and kites and kites and kites and kites. It's going to be good enough. But ShoWTimE, I really feel like he's got to get on the map. Like, he's not taking control here. He does not get the planetary either, as close as that was. A couple DTs with their blink actually would have been very helpful there. And it might still happen.
I do believe that's about to happen here, Zombie Grub. That's a big warp in of DTs, and that planetary is very, very low in hit points. And he lost the turret there. So the DTs are going to be a problem.
He needs to go now. He sees an army to the right side, but that's not all of INnoVation's army. He recognizes that too. He also gets to scan this 5th base.
The natural ShoWTimE's open here, and INnoVation wants to capitalize on it.
Yeah, like scan usually means a Terran's trying to head over there, and it is going to be in the natural. That's where a lot of technology is as well. It's going to get very, very scary, but the DT is also going to do some damage here. Not just the planetary going down, but potentially that, what was it, 6th base? Liberators, though, this is a big problem. Does he recall into the main now?
I think you kind of need to come in from 2 angles here against Liberators for sure. Coming in down the Liberation zones, got to be so much of a problem here on those +2 Liberators. Stalker's not really winning this engagement either. Those Marauders high enough in count to win that fight. ShoWTimE will pick up another planetary here. INnoVation knocked down to 3 bases, but can he stop the Terran's attack is the big question.
That is an absolutely huge question. He is about to have another upgrade here to help out, but where is the army? It's still being stuck behind the Liberation zones, and I guess there's no recall in the main. Now it might be too late because the army's already there. He's going to lose another Nexus potentially. Liberators now sieging up defensively, but that is 3 command centers down for INnoVation. 1 Nexus, maybe 2. That's going to be 2 Nexus down for ShoWTimE.
Yeah, INnoVation turning and firing on that Colossus. Wants to make sure that the army dies, so he can't die to a counterattack. Oh, a disruptor in the main base. It's like ShoWTimE Hero Marine all over again. All those Terran armies get knocked down, but of course this game is a lot crazier. This is pretty nuts here as INnoVation and ShoWTimE take massive blows to each other.
Yeah, the Stalkers were unable to target fire down those medevacs. There's too many things happening at once. I mean, directly he was just controlling those disruptors. But it looks like the DTs have mostly survived. Now going to turn into Marcons. And with, I guess actually those were mostly planetaries, weren't they? So he still has a decent number of scans. And actually the Raven is still alive. That's not usual for a 15-minute game.
Yeah, and also ShoWTimE's had an Oracle alive for a long time as well. Has been consistently tagging. I'm not sure if it's still alive. ShoWTimE wants to pick a fight here before the Terran recovers. Doesn't want to give him any breathing room, but it feels like ShoWTimE kind of needs breathing room as well, though.
Yeah, he needs more options against the Liberators, and unfortunately, oh my gosh, they're just leapfrogging forward so aggressively. The Raven's still alive somehow, too. He cannot target that down. Anti-armor missile now on that army means that ShoWTimE really cannot take a fight under the Liberators.
Absolutely not. I mean, Disruptors are fantastic, but Liberators are a certain big problem for them as the Liberators can zone them back, especially with that range upgrade. ShoWTimE just ignoring this push, going for a counterattack on INnoVation, potentially with a recall to come home eventually.
I mean, that is a decent option, but he's lost his forward bases, the one is actual mining. He's going to find the new base of INnoVation before it's a planetary. The Liberators here to defend, only 2 of them, but they have +3 attack. That is insane. Oh my god. So many more Liberators coming forward. You do not break that.
I think ShoWTimE's losing steam here. Zombie Grub Liberators are a giant problem that he doesn't have an answer for. GG. And INnoVation gets himself the 2nd game of ShoWTimE. You know, a lot of the gateways went down. The ShoWTimE's ability to remake an army that can actually help, you know, against Liberators and that sort of thing just wasn't really there anymore. He still had his robos, he still had robotic space, so he had a lot of disruptors, he had Colossi, but they didn't really cut the mustard. Yeah,
he did lose a decent amount of army without having that bank just instantly replace it, whereas INnoVation might have lost his bio army, but he had still a ton of Liberators growing with, again, insane upgrades. Like, to compare him to other Terrans, I feel like they would have been on their way to +2 when all that chaos was going on, which is a very important upgrade. It takes away an additional shot needed to kill Stalkers. But he was actually like on his way to +3 or even done. Like that was pretty crazy upgrade. So anyways, we do want to talk about it a fair bit because this game might look very similar, but we are into a new game. And ShoWTimE, well aware of all the weaknesses I talked about on this map, actually can sometimes flip to be the Terran's weakness. This is actually a map where, I don't think it was trap, but you know, big enveloping swamps of just Zealot Stalker can catch someone trying to defend their 3rd base off guard. But if ShoWTimE's not going to hit that attack, then it is going to be more an INnoVation getting the big concave.
Yeah, INnoVation squeezed out a couple Widow Mines here and also a medevac, which is on the way there with 3 Widow Mines in tow. It's making sure that he's going for a drop. So ShoWTimE, I mean, he has Blink, he has an Observer on the way, and he's got to make this pylon at a good time as well as the probe. Should be able to see the medevac, give him some time, unless the probe leaves, of course. The pylon sees it anyway. So ShoWTimE should be prepared, and he is. Stalker's moving to intercept.
Yeah. Very professional move right there. Sometimes they do go the other direction, and it doesn't help, but it isn't often an attack path. INnoVation not just stuck around here, not doing damage, but also not getting a ton of scouting. He did miss that Twilight Council initially, but you can kind of tell with the third base timing, with the amount of stalkers, what the original opener was. Obviously, an Oracle hasn't flown by, right? But then, of course, what is it beyond that? Is it double Forge? Is it no Forge? Is he going to be all in from Zaun in a second? Or, in this case, is it a Robotics Bay?
Robotics Bay is the choice. ShoWTimE really getting the trying out that Korean PVZ style of PVT style, I should say, of mass gateway units. Seems to like his tier 3 a little bit better. Medevac ain't going nowhere. I mean, it could boost through the middle, but ShoWTimE's just sort of keeping it on check. So INnoVation is going towards 3 CCs. Obviously, the Nexus is pretty fast along here for ShoWTimE as well. Very sort of macro, normal opening for both players.
Did he get sighted on that third CC? I don't think so.
Don't think so.
Yeah, the Observer was very careful about this. What was that?
I think
Depth, I guess.
Depth, I suppose.
Yeah. She won't get sight on that either, but she didn't see anything in the front as well, ready to push, and that's maybe still a very good scout. So ShoWTimE should feel comfortable getting to Colossus, but I don't see a Forge. I don't see any upgrades other than Colossus.
Yeah, this is going to be a problem for ShoWTimE. It kind of gives us as commentators a little bit of a inkling into what ShoWTimE might be thinking here. Maybe a lot more splash damage, early push, or
that's
maybe just expecting a push and then hoping for enough units left over to counterattack.
So I feel like that's the unfortunate option. He might just be expecting a push and not getting leads where he could, or I mean, not even leads in this case. Like, he'd just be on his way to 1-1 alongside INnoVation, but instead he might be over defending as a push that's not really coming.
These Forges missing really is concerning me for ShoWTimE. Because INnoVation absolutely is getting his double upgrades here.
I mean, I was wondering if he forgot it, but he does throw down double, and with Chronos he could maybe eventually catch up, but this is a very long time not to be upgrading with INnoVation's 3cc double engineering-based style. Raven going to try and do some harassment. Actually, I mean, it did help last game. Again, killing that Raven.
Oh my god, he got a Stalker.
Would be so nice, and yeah, he loses a Stalker instead.
Yeah, and a Probe. So pretty effective Raven there so far, as long as it survives, of course. And INnoVation with a push to the north side. ShoWTimE, it does have his army in position.
I mean, he could just squash this entirely and then try and get some kind of counter, but he's not. I don't think that is his plan. I think he's just worried about defending first and foremost, and then playing his macro game once again. We'll see how it works out. I think his army is fine. It's good to go. He's got a Guardian Shield. He's not going to run into it without Zealots being done. Not trying to pop the Widow Mines there.
Yeah, losing Stalkers to the Siege tank, though. The Stalker is still important. Zealots obviously more important. They don't have charge. They get on the tank and shoo him away. INnoVation with a couple Marauders and mostly Marines does need to respect these Colossi, so he does get deflected.
He starts 1-1 as he deflects that push. I mean, pretty easily. It would have been actually maybe very bad for INnoVation if charge was done, if more Zealots were available, but kind of just bouncing off each other. But then we look at the macro here, and INnoVation's armory is now done. He starts 2-2 as ShoWTimE puts maybe 1 or 2 Chronos into his 1-1. That's going to be a long ways away. I don't think ShoWTimE's going to have an opportunity to really move out in the map soon. If he does, he's got to worry about being surrounded.
This feels like ShoWTimE hasn't been able to play the macro game he wants just now. Like, INnoVation's got more workers. He's been macroing like an absolute beast. His upgrades are much further along than the Protosses. You know, normally at this point, the Protoss with a few more workers, a 4th Nexus. I mean, there is one on the way. He just started it, as I said that.
Okay, I mean, that is good. And maybe INnoVation, for a little while, doesn't think of checking that top right, but instead is keeping tabs on the triangle pattern of the main base. This is interesting. ShoWTimE goes for War Prism speed, so we could have some more emphasis on trying to get on the other side of the map, using his War Prism offensively, as he was just a bit late to that in the second game and never really got a chance to in the first game.
I like it. I mean, we had Bleak DTs as a harassment choice from ShoWTimE, and I think that speedy Prisms almost always find damage. The question is always how much. It looks like INnoVation does know about that 4th base. He's got a drop set up next to the main here to potentially be very annoying. With ShoWTimE does have some units in the main, but does he have enough is a big question. Yes, he does.
That's a decent amount. A scan reveals nothing. ShoWTimE might be like, I mean, ShoWTimE's vision of the map is actually quite good. I don't think he's going to be afraid of that random push that caught him off guard last game. And maybe it could be, I'm actually not sure, it could be better. He has like a vertical line of scouting right now. ShoWTimE feeling safe on 4 bases, just needs to perfect his army, continue with his upgrades. As 1-1 finished, he does not immediately start 2-2, whereas INnoVation's 2-2 is finishing. But a War Prism does manage to avoid these missile turret. Why are you there, Sentry?
Oh, this warpin's not going to happen, unfortunately, as the Vikings get on top of it. Quick response there from INnoVation. Loses a Ghost. That's a nice pick off there. 2 Ghosts to the Zealots. That's actually not bad for ShoWTimE, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, Ghosts are kind of expensive, man.
Yeah, pretty expensive. He does lose a Sentry, obviously, and the Prism going down is a little bit annoying there for the Protoss. INnoVation with less Ghosts. ShoWTimE with a lot of Zealots, a couple Colossi here. I think he just has the 2 Colossi.
He's got to be very careful. I mean, I feel like there was a game in this tournament where he just got completely surrounded, even though he was kind of in the right for being out on the map. Like, keeping pressure on your opponent, making them worry a little bit, just taking control is always good in StarCraft. And then you look away for 1 second, suddenly you're just, concaved on, then it's obviously it turns very bad. And that did happen to ShoWTimE very recently. So I'm sure he's thinking about that. Might have been a qualifier match, actually, but anyways, he's got to make sure to stay on maybe chokes, ramps, keeps eyes on his opponent, because that's what he's missing. He doesn't have Revelation right now like last time.
Yeah, the Oracle's helped out so much in Game 2. INnoVation is a little bit in the dark. Attacking to the north side here as INnoVation has his army out of position. Nice catch there from ShoWTimE. Any free damage is great here. INnoVation's air attack is so nice here. He's got those upgrades on the way already. These Vikings will just not care about Colossi if the engagement actually happens. There's 3 Colossi for ShoWTimE, and now he is switching in to Disruptors. EMPs on those Zealots. ShoWTimE trying to keep them back away from the fight. Using the Disruptors to zone. Gets a Ghost there. Not bad, not bad. Another Nova heading forward, but gonna whiff this one.
ShoWTimE, though, I feel like still needs to keep up the pressure. INnoVation pushing this back is already a good sign because he's transferring over into a very, very good composition once again. And ShoWTimE has found actually difficulties in almost every PvT he's played, actually transferring over into Stargate to combat this. He needs to be on the map. But he is looking to defend right here, right now. Another Disruptor's about to pop. So many charge lots.
Yeah, a lot of charge lots, but they're only 1-1 against 2-2 bio, and there's a lot of medevac support here, and Ghost EMP. So they're not as scary as I think they could be. Well, that's a big load up there.
Did the Observer see the load up,
Yes,
though?
it did.
Ooh, it's going to go right over that 4th base. 5th base, actually, and into the main. Nothing has been left there to defend, so that would be a lot of damage taken. Can he take on the main army? Doesn't look like it.
I got to cancel on that bottom left. Big drop in the main here from INnoVation. ShoWTimE not really getting in there and dealing with it just yet because he's still dealing with the Terran army down the bottom. And his army sort of running around in circles here because he needs to get those units in the main. He's going to lose a bit of production, so a few gateways go down. Enough charge lots, maybe, but again, these upgrades for the bio, he's just standing there and face tanking it.
Oh, he had to, too, but I don't even know if that would have been enough. He was missing a Guardian Shield, he's missing any type of splash. There was just so much there from INnoVation, and yes, very well upgraded stuff. He's also attacking to the 4th base, which ShoWTimE does not know about. He's lost presence over on that top side. He's moving there, but it's too late.
INnoVation is everywhere, and ShoWTimE, just like Game 1, just like Game 2, starting to lose his fitting from the 10-minute arc plus. The Terran is just everywhere. How can he deal with all these things at the same time? He just cannot. His army is only powerful when it's together.
Yeah, it's so difficult as well to use Disruptors effectively when you're trying to use them in 3 different locations alongside blinking and alongside, not letting your Zealots die to micro. It is very, very difficult. And then on top of this, INnoVation is not just going to try and bully ShoWTimE, throw bodies at him, the Zap Brannigan strategy. No, he's going into Liberators, which not only gives him an excellent follow-up attack, but also excellent defense in case ShoWTimE were to actually deal with it effectively.
Lots of Liberator production here, and lots of Liberators already out with +2 attack. Something that ShoWTimE, once again, is going to have to struggle to deal with. He's making a lot of gateways right now, so, a lot of Stalkers seems to be his option against those Libs. Letting the charge lots and the Colossi and the Disruptors with their magic on the ground army. Getting a few Liberators here, but does lose a few units himself.
Well, so far, good control from both players. He can take out 1 Liberator every time they siege up here without losing too many Stalkers, and Disruptors will always keep the bio away from his ground army, so very micro-oriented right now. ShoWTimE, while keeping up the pressure, is expanding once again. He did manage to save his 4th, or his 5th, which became his 4th, so he actually wasn't so bad in the economy, although it looked very scary for a second there.
Yeah. ShoWTimE is recovering here. Slipped off that cliff face, but found one of those little chokeholds for him to grab onto. Big charge lot run by onto the planetary. Mass repair. Oh, that Nova, pretty tasty, getting quite a bit of bio as INnoVation, I think, was looking at the charge lots.
Is this where ShoWTimE really starts to show his style, distracting his opponent in one place and then sending Disruptor balls in another? The Liberator's not going down, however, the Stalkers, they're just too powerful.
Bit of an overextension there from ShoWTimE. He loses quite a bit, but does get some nice Novas out on the ground, so both players trading. The planetary survives, and as we can see, the Terran's been doing a lot better on the minerals. Quite a bit more gas lost, but it feels like the Terran is trading better overall by a good margin.
I feel ShoWTimE get overzealous the same time I did, He was like, Zealots are doing something, my army's doing something, and then actually looking at the supply, it went very, very poorly because he didn't get the planetary, and he didn't break INnoVation's 5th 6th. I mean, he's starting to really expand out here, getting all of his additional upgrades as well for his planetaries. ShoWTimE is struggling to defend this. Once again, a lot of his army was up to the top right, where he actually, I mean, it wouldn't have been helped against this. There's so many Liberators.
Yeah, these Liberators really are the MVPs for INnoVation, doing so much damage. ShoWTimE does pick off a few more, but again, where INnoVation is just everywhere on the map once more, he's just never going down one attack path. He's always in several places at once. Planetary here should be fine to hold on to these Zealots, especially considering the bio is here as well with SEVs to repair. German Protoss is looking a little bit rough now, down 60 supply, and that number is not looking any better here, unfortunately. So he doesn't have a ton of money to make too much.
No, he doesn't. A couple of Disruptors could change the game on the ground, but the Liberators, not really a strong answer as their upgrade finishes. ShoWTimE finally has his completed upgrades, but no shield, unlike some other games he's played. Disruptor is now getting EMP'd plus Liberator on, and just getting chased down. They're not going to find effective shots there. ShoWTimE is starting to really fall behind in that supply.
And we got a DT hit squad here from ShoWTimE. Really would love to kill that planetary, but how does he stop the army? The army is so much more important here. Harassment is great, and it does get you back into the game, but only if you can stop the Terran from killing you.
Oh, building armor's about to finish, but that SCD repair is so darn good. ShoWTimE loses another base. INnoVation about to take a couple of disruptor shots to the face. That's always nice. Again, the Liberators, can he deal with them?
Well, the Stalkers are circling around the Liberation zones, but there's enough Marauders alive to actually punish him for that, and actually whips that Nova, but doesn't really matter because he picks up those Ghosts, and GG, INnoVation with a pretty convincing 3-0 there to start things off.
He made a style that looked so convincing and so brutal and occasionally so little BS when it makes those comebacks. He made that style look just super easy to deal with. Like, why was everyone having problems? Just go Liberators.
I heard Reddit and Twitter was really upset about Disruptors, and